Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our...
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic, new guest. Today's topic is essential. It's something that we all ought to practice on our own, and we need it in our lives and to just live better. I mean, period and out. And our guest is actually a fellow podcaster. She's a writer, an author. She's a public speaker. She's a voice over. She does voiceovers. She's also a psychotherapist by trade, and her main thing is really to bring people into this realm of self-development and really find yourself through different practices. And we're going to talk about all that. And I think you also, I think she also talks about some spirituality and combines all that stuff in one element. And we have a book that we're going to discuss today, which is her book that she's published. And I think it's a great book for people to really just master some of these techniques to help them in their life. Mm-hmm. So without any further ado, I have with me Rachel Astarte. And welcome, Rachel. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
It's a pleasure. Like I said to you earlier, there's not enough discussion about self-development and just improvement. And today is a good time, like any other day, to discuss that. And I know a lot of people, sometimes they have difficulty figuring that out. And sometimes they even have challenges like, how am I supposed to do this? And how am I supposed to deal with this situation? Do I exclude myself from society to be able to make it? And there's different things that, and right. Some people use different approaches, meditation and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But so before we get into all that good stuff, why don't we go over a little bit of your background and really, how you got into this whole world of self-development specifically.
Yeah.
Let's take it from there.
Okay, sounds good. So I actually started out in a very creative household. My father was a poet and a professor of literature and poetry. And my mother, and he's not with us anymore. He died in 2001. My mother is still alive. She was also an educator, and she is, at the beautiful age of 83, still active in the theater community. She's an actor, she's a writer, she's a director. So I grew up with a lot of creativity around me. So I started as a writer and as an actor, which is kind of how I still do the voiceovers. It's the thing that's left from that world. And so that's how I got started. And one of the things that was really important to me as a performer was communication with other people. I wanted very much to connect with other human beings and find out what touches us, what moves us, what's interesting. So, and as we all know, the acting and writing worlds are very difficult to really make a stake in. So I felt I just wasn't reaching enough people. So, around, I guess, the 2010, 2011, I decided to become a life coach. And so I was still doing all the other beautiful stuff. I was writing, but then I was actually able to start working with clients, helping them one-on-one. And as I started doing that, I realized that a lot of the work I was doing was getting uncomfortably close to therapy, which is not legal. I can't do therapy as a life coach. So I made the decision in 2015 to go back and get another master's degree in marriage and family therapy, which sent me on my journey to becoming a psychotherapist. In between all of this was a lot of my own spiritual growth. And I began to start infusing into my coaching and into my therapy work a lot of spirituality. So now I'm able to kind of bring all of my skill set together. My specific spiritual practice is shamanism. So I do a lot of work with that, but I work with many patients of many different religious beliefs and faiths and practices or spiritual practices, because to me, they're all at the core the same. It's our connection to the great mystery, whatever that might be, which is very exciting to me. So, so really, yeah, what over time, what ended up happening was I realized the biggest issue for a lot of people was, how do I make my life worth living? How do I get past the junk of the trauma of my childhood or the issues that I'm having now so that I can be the best person I can be in the world? And so that became really my sole focus, is to help as many people who want to come to me and who I can take to say, yeah, let's work with what we have. Because my core belief is that everyone is holy, everyone is divine. And we just have a lot of junk in the way that stops us from radiating that beauty. That's where we are.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for the little bit of history. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
That was like 50 years of my life in about 2 minutes.
That's right. I mean, it's amazing how we could crush that, right? But really, it's deep, because I mean, your mission, I mean, as you chose to be, to help people, and that's actually again, not everybody chooses that path, and you did, and you took the necessary steps to become an expert in it, in a lot of ways, whether it's the certification, the education of it, and combining all the things that you believed in into that same world. And of course, with your background, it helps better, because you can do certain things in a better way, public speaking, all this stuff. So those are all important things. And again, the topic, itself is deep, because humans are difficult in a way, but also simple.
Right.
It's amazing how that works, right? I mean, we think life is complicated, and life could be very simple, but there's so many things that we absorb since the beginning of our lives, and those become, your characteristics, or at least the things that make you or break you in a way. And as you grow up, there's so many elements and waves of environmental stuff, and then contributions to who you become and what you do, how you behave, and so on and so forth. And those are all things sometimes that can be, if they're not proper, we can fix them, but it starts with the self. It starts with ourselves. And I think that's really a big discussion right there, because how many people literally spend time to talk to themselves or with themselves? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That is actually a common
fabulous question.
So I mean, what would you say to that? I mean, the importance of that piece itself.
Yeah, of talking to yourself and with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, that to me is such an important part of how we know ourselves. We are walking around with our best friend all the time. That's ourselves. Ideally. And I can hear people going like, I don't know. That sounds weird to me. I don't think I could be my own best friend. But the truth is, this is the soul that you're with. This is the person that you're with from the moment you're born to the moment you die. It makes really good sense to get to know that being well, and to embrace him or her or them, and be able to work with them and play with them and love them in the way that we all, like all human beings, what do we want? We want to be respected. We want to be heard. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted for who we are. The only person who can do that is you. You can't look outside of yourself for someone to validate you, because they got their own stuff they're dealing with, right? So imagine what the world would be like if we were all connected to our true natures, to our true selves, and not seeking to take from someone else what we need. We could get it within ourselves. Relationships would not be so tumultuous. There would likely not be wars, there wouldn't be so much selfishness, greed, fear, all of that. because we would realize that even though we are talking about our individual souls, we're still connected to the great continuum. It's where we came from. It's where we go back to. That's science, by the way. So I don't ever like to get too woo-woo on this, because I am a left brain, right brain, split right down the middle kind of person. So when I talk about this stuff, I like there to be science to back it up. So in physics, we talk about that everything is interconnected, that we all came from the origins of the universe, and we're all carbon-based beings. Everything around us is basically our sibling. So the issues that we come up against are that feeling of separation. That's when we start to feel lonely, separate from the great spirit or creation or whatever it is, and separate from each other and separate from nature. We see that happening right now with the way we're treating the earth, right? Where somehow we feel like the earth is ours to do with what we will. No, the earth is our family. And so when we start to treat the earth as our family, treat the animals, the plants, each other as family, it's a huge shift in how we see the world. But it all starts with us. So to answer your question in a very roundabout way,
Well, no,
that's why it's so important.
Well, thank you. And there's so much that came out of that question and the answer. One being the whole world is made of individuals that make the fabric of the society. And so
Correct.
Each one of us, if we all are unique in a way, but also perfect, which is a very difficult term, because what is perfection? And we can talk about that as well. But the idea, it starts with the individuals. And you're right. The individuals can make those decisions, but only by discovering themselves and understanding themselves one.
Right.
But then the issue that we have, though, is that most of the people, the minute they open their eyes in real life, they have contributors or influences, right? Whether be it through media, TV, family. First, people are the family, right?
Right.
Friends, school. So there's so much stuff that we interact with that actually kind of almost changes how you perceive the world and how you behave. Because if you're attaching yourself to everybody else, right? And what their expectations of you should be. And that's I think that's the biggest problem that we have. People sometimes I'm not confident with how I look or who I am, but I want to really subscribe to what other people think of me and their perception. And so I want to meet that perception. That's a problem. And I know for a fact, as people mature enough to realize this, they make those amends and the changes, and they become almost independent from that opinion. I don't care what people think, but you don't find that as early on in our lives. I mean, that's something that comes with age, I would say, and maturity and wisdom. But originally, imagine if we're all born, and the minute we are out there, we get that little plug, and you know what, this is who you need to be. Don't worry about the rest. That would be different, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you for bringing that up, because it's such an important point. When we're born, we are perfect. Of course we are. Look at children playing. They don't give a crap what anybody thinks. I am a unicorn, and that's what I'm running around as in the living room. That's who I am. I am a unicorn. And no one says otherwise, because your kid's playing and kids are allowed to play. It's when you're embodying the spirit of the unicorn or the tiger or whatever it is, or the fireman or whatever. When someone says, well, that's not really what you are, it shuts all these doors in us, right? When it's not, you don't get to do that. You're somebody else. And usually it's our caretakers, whether they're our parents or teachers or society or whatever, saying, no, this is what's appropriate, as you just mentioned, right? This is how you should be. And so we begin to separate from our true nature, which is the embodiment of anything, everything at all times. I think it was Freud, don't quote me, but somebody who said, God made man in his image, not the other way around. In other words, man is meant to be omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, and just as God is. And God can be used in many different ways. If you could talk about that as the universe, you could say creation, you could say great spirit, whatever it is, that great mystery. So we are divine. And when we get the messages that we're not, that you have to sit and cross your hands and your desk and be quiet when the teacher speaks and don't be too loud around the house. And it teaches us to stuff our nature, our true nature. Now, yes, we have to learn certain things in order to get along in society, that, you know, it's not nice to talk over other people when they're talking, you know, those kinds of things to get on in society. But what you're talking about, I believe, and what I think we're mutually talking about is your core self, your true spirit, and being told, I don't have to do what the influencers on Instagram say. I don't have to have a body like that. I'm turning 53 this year. And so I know from looking like, oh, a 53-year-old woman should look a certain way, right? And that usually means, you know, 50 is the new 30. Who cares? You know what I mean? What happened to embracing whatever it is our minds, our bodies, our spirits do, and celebrating the human being that person is? So that's why this work is so important, is getting rid of the roles and the stories that we're told about who we're supposed to be and embracing who we really are.
Well, Rachel, I mean, thank you for breaking that out further. But you're talking about something very important right now, that you mentioned something about 50, right? And someone can say, well, you've lived in long enough to be at 50 and therefore you can think that way. But then if we go back in time and realize that, you know, even a younger person, a teenage person, sometimes is pushed into these angles or by the wall, because everybody else expecting a certain way of them. And that's causing personal problems for them, you know, self-esteem and so on and so forth. And even to the detriment sometimes, where people actually are making suicide and doing stuff because of, you know, they get too much, you know, pushed, and then, you know, there's this bullying and all the stuff that happens because, again, oh, you don't look good, your body's this, and, you know, you need, you know, look at her, look at him, and people start making fun of you. And it's unfortunate, but it's real. That happens, and it's psychological, and we deal with it almost every day. We hear stories, horror stories, and it's not the first time, it's not new, it's been in existence. But then if people start really paying attention and saying, you know what, I don't have to be exactly like everybody else. I am who I am. I am happy the way I look. And you know what? You can make fun of me all you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah, I think that you raise a really important point. And I laughed a little bit when you said, well, I'm 50-ish. I have the right now to sort of say, yeah, okay, sure. You know, but the truth is, we have to look, okay, let's do psychology for a little bit. So we talk about the life stages, right? Developmental life stages. When you're a teenager, your sole purpose is to make community with your peers. And if your peers are rejecting you, that's devastating. That's why we're seeing the suicides. That's why we're seeing that kind of, my life is over if I can't fit in with this group of people. We are designed by nature to find community outside of ourselves, or outside of our family of origin, so that we can move on and procreate and do what human beings are supposed to do. What I would say to teenagers, and what I do say to teenagers, is don't lose focus on who you are, because who you are is what you are generating into the universe. What you're going to call to you people like you. And so when someone is being mean, when someone is bullying, I tell this to my son, right? A bully is someone who is insecure, who is in so much pain that they need to make other people small, and they deserve our compassion. They don't have power over us because they are powerless, and that's sad for them, you know? So, and that goes for the grown-up bullies too, you know, because really what we all are at the core of our being is creative and loving. That's, you know, love created the universe, basically. We don't, you know, not love with the hearts, but the love of seeing things to fruition, right? So when we start saying, well, you don't look like so-and-so, or you've got wrinkles, or you're fat, what ruler are we measuring ourselves against? Who's got this golden ruler? That's what I want to know. And you know who has it is commerce. There is industry in the gyms, in the cosmetics, in the hair products, in the this and the that, and the clothing. That's industry. And if we don't have industry, then we're not making money. So, and you have to wear this, and you have to carry that bag and drive this car and have that house and vacation over here, right? Where the wealthy people do. All of that makes us feel small about who we truly are. And the whole thing is based on trying to get you to be someone they need you to be as a consumer, right? But bigger than that, it's about, again, we talked about the separation between us and the divine. What's wrong with letting someone just let their freak flag fly? You know what I mean? What's wrong with that? Why can't we just let a person be who they are, right? And learn from each other. So for teenagers, I say, what is it? Like, I was a rebel in high school. I had my group of weird friends, and we're still friends today, thank goodness. But we found each other. We were not, we shopped at the Goodwill. We weren't at the mall. You know what I mean? We didn't care. I wore men's clothes. I didn't care, and yes, I got bullied for being overweight back then and all this, who cares? But what mattered to me was, what am I doing with my life? How am I enjoying the time that I have here? So that's what we need to encourage in teenagers. And it's starting to happen now. But we don't realize how strong we are. And I think that's what needs to be encouraged with young people.
Well, thank you. First of all, you said you laughed or smiled. The reason I said it, because I have these same discussions with my kids, and you know what, Dad, you lived 50 years. You don't understand. I'm like, no, I understand. I've been there. we've been through a lot of stages, so I know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah.
But the one thing is, that we need to be aware of is that you're right. There's the industry. So we get almost hypnotized to all these things. And then therefore that's like you subscribe to those, views and those angles. If you cannot fit this profile or look like this or shop this way, to your point, it becomes almost like, oh my God, people, what people are going to think about me. That's the thing. If we live for what people are going to think about us, we're wrong. We need to live like, nobody cares. I say, matter of fact, I had this discussion with my son this morning. It's like, dude, you are born alone. You die alone.
Yep.
Even me, I'm your dad, but I'm temporary with you, and there will be a time where we're going to part. And at the end of the day, I have only like you said, only a few friends you're still friends with. But I mean, in the scheme of things, you look at all the people you've encountered in your life, only a few of them are with you today. I'm talking about like close to you. And that's really, we meet a lot of people in lives, and some for good reasons, some bad reasons. Some people come, they go, some they're interested in there. Whatever it is, you treat everybody correctly and the right way, and you be nice. At least that's my frequency. That's how I like to be good with everyone. But at the same time, I love everyone. I have a joke. I say, I love everyone as much as they love me and better.
Nice.
So just as deep as it sounds, if you love me, great. If you don't, well, guess what? Mutual effects here. So it doesn't matter. I'm not worried. I'm not actually waiting for that love. I'm not waiting for somebody to actually give me credits. I don't need nobody's credit. The only credit I need is here. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I am doing what I have to do. I do crazy things. What people may sometimes like, is this guy even doing this? Hey, listen, people made fun of me. Like I started the shows. It's like, can he really do this? Well, I'm doing it. I don't care what you think. I mean, I'm doing it. I'm doing it with a good mission, a heart. I have a purpose, and no one's going to stop me. Nobody's investing in it. I'm putting my time, my brains, my money, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it, and I'm hopefully that some people will benefit from it. And that's really the purpose. But, I didn't ask for someone to give me that feed or like, is it going to work? Is it going to work? No, I mean, I could ask and sound bored, with someone and get just positive stuff, but that's okay. But that's the thing. The minute you start waiting for people's, to give you the, like literally the seal of approval, then you have a problem. And we have that problem across there everywhere, whether it's at work, at school, even in life, like, what my peers are going to look, peer pressure. Okay. You're right. You can look different. Actually, I've always looked different. I didn't care. People did. I always say you have to be unique. You are unique. We humans are unique by default. Everybody is only one you. That's right. There's nobody else. There's only one Hurricane H or Hisham. There's only one Rachel. Now there's other Rachels. There's probably even other twins looking, lookalikes, right? But it's not you.
No.
We might share the universe, as you said, because at the end, you're right. I mean, that's a deep discussion in its own. Understanding this whole world and scientifically and religiously, they can actually meet in the back, because at the end, it's all energy. You're talking about we are from the same fabric of the universe. Right. It's all energy, quarks and ions and stuff. That's right. So at the end of the day, we're just like any star out there, but we perceive it differently. But I mean, if we go into that discussion, we'll lose people quickly because it gets a little quantum. I've had actually some quantum discussions before, which kind of turns a little bit like, when you start merging spirituality with religion and science, people kind of get a little excited. So, but at the end of the day, it is true, because understanding this world a little bit different, I always refer to the Matrix as a good, concept. Yeah. We live the Matrix. I mean, and right. Even time, there are facts in science that say that, the present, the past, the present, and the future exist at the same time. It just, right. different dimensions, there's parallel universes. And, it sounds kind of like way out there, but in science and physics and, it's not, it's really,
it's right here.
It exists. We experience things because of even time. Really, does it exist really the way we just define it, because we put an element in a space and we calculate, the frequency and how it turns, and we give it a little bit of a name. We call it time, for example. But there's more to this, right? Yeah. But you're right. The key here is we're talking about, the individual person and how they can look at themselves and have those. We started with the discussion talking to yourself, and that's when, like, I just need to know. You got this. I look in the mirror like, you got this. Don't worry. When I go to do a speech, you got this. I give the tap, on my shoulder. I don't wait for someone else to tell me, hey, you got this. No, I got this. I got me. Now, I do have a personal, I'm in a way I said unique, because I'm a lonely child. There's a lot of them, out there. And one thing that taught me is that I could live alone. You're right. We do need the community. We do need society. Sure. But you can survive also with or without. You can limit yourself. Right. You can easily remove yourself and insert back yourself. Yes. I know your book is about celebrating solitude.
That's right.
And so now we can talk about that, because sometimes people are rejected or they're not feeling appropriate or whatever. But sometimes it's good, just isolate yourself a little bit. And I guess solitude and isolation may be two different things, but really the idea is you're in control. Everybody's in control. And everybody owes themselves to revisit themselves and reset. And by the way, there's no time limit. You can reset any given day. That's just because you had a bad pat, whatever. Then today, now is the time. You can make a difference. You can change, and you don't have to listen to us. Any minute, you can make that decision. You know what? Enough is enough. Career paths. People change career paths. Yeah, it's very common. The pandemic has proven that. A lot of people, completely changed their lives, in a bad, tragic event and worldwide that turned to be positive for a lot. Obviously, there's the sadness. Thing. There are a lot of people that lost family and friends and so on and so forth, which is tragic. But there's nothing we can do about that in terms of the pandemic happened, and some people adjusted differently to it. But at the end of the day, some people make complete transformations, even after devastation. Some people have learned it the hard way, but then they moved on and they changed their lifestyles and their life, way how they behave and so on. People move from states to states, decisions that they wouldn't have made easily before were made in this time. Yeah. And that's a big deal. I mean, if people can change and make moves, know that anyone can. And you mentioned early on something about the kids. You're right. It's beautiful. Kids don't see differences. They don't see the colors. There's no races. They don't see ethnicity. Right. They don't see anything. They just see play. Let's have a fun, together, and we enjoy. We start establishing all these differences and learning these little tweaks, like, you cannot be with this or the other. They don't look like me. We have problems, whatever. That becomes later on, and then it becomes your style, and you pick. But people choose because I want to be with this crowd. So I'm going to sacrifice my own beliefs or my own, personal stuff just to fit in. You don't have to. That's the thing, right? And people can say, well, it's easier to say that now. I didn't have to fit in, And again, it served me well. I can fit in any environment, but I am in control. I can make myself available to that environment, or I can remove myself. And I'm not talking about me personally. I'm talking that anyone can have that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And you were touching on a really important point about the Matrix. You brought up the Matrix, which I love the series of movies. The real illusion is the separation. I think that's really important to stress. The illusion world that we live in is the world where we are separate from great mystery, right?
Mhm.
So that's the matrix, is where you don't even realize that you are divine. And that's sort of what the book is about. Celebrating Solitude reminds you of your importance. So the subtitle of the book is How to Discover and Honor Your Highest Self. So what does that mean? And we can't do that when we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, to other things, to other ways of life. So the purpose of Celebrating Solitude is to develop a solitude practice where you're spending just a few minutes a day, sometimes longer if you have it. People with children don't often have a lot of that time, but the idea is that you're spending time with yourself, doing something that you love, that makes you feel joy and makes you feel connected to yourself. So it could be meditation, it could be taking a walk in nature, it could be knitting, it could be taking a nice hot bath, something that allows you to regenerate and recharge your battery. And you don't do it in order to isolate or stay away or be a hermit. The whole purpose of a solitude practice is, as I said, to regenerate yourself so that you can go back into the world as your highest self. Because when you're functioning and you're grounded and you're coming from that clean and clear place within you, your interactions with other people are going to be more genuine, are going to be more compassionate, are going to be more interactive in a healthy way, because as you were saying too, you're not looking outside of yourself to get something from someone else. You've already got it. So then you have more energy and more stamina to interact from a grounded place, whatever that situation might be. You know, I always go back to the example of you're driving in traffic and someone cuts you off, you know, and all of a sudden there's that childhood rage that comes up. This is my spot. No, you know, this is you were being rude to me and I'm pissed off about it. So when we come from a place where we've been taking care of ourselves, we can certainly say, well, that was awfully rude, but we don't, you know, wish ill on that other person. We don't necessarily feel like our whole being has been, you know, there's an affront to our being. We just kind of say, well, that was a crappy situation that just happened, and I'm going to let that go. So imagine if we really could recharge our batteries so much that we interact with others, give back to the community in a better way. You know, that's really what it's about.
Well, thank you. And again, you hit on a few elements. One being, you said we have what it takes. I mean, everybody has the core. And think about a building that is, you know, ready, but the cosmetics are not there. I mean, you still have to do some aesthetic work on it and just, you know, start, you know, put in all the molding and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But really that could be done any given day. I mean, you can add things where there's enough stuff out there that we can complement ourselves, you know, with it. Education is another one. Like, let's say if you feel there's a need and you think you need to tweak something, there's plenty of opportunity, learn something new,
Sure.
Make something, career paths. And there's so many things you could do. But there was something you mentioned about finding your higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how does someone get to that stage? How can they really establish that I'm there? You know, I mean, you'll take the time, you meditate and stuff. I know, for example, in my case, I mean, I'm in almost touch with that person, right? I know where I am, where I stand today.
Yes.
Some people may or may not, and any given day, they might need to get to that point. And to your point, like very simple, someone cuts you off. I used to get excited. I don't get excited. Whatever.
Yeah.
Isn't a rush, whatever. I mean,
Right.
you know, it's only going to take a minute. I don't have time to waste. And that's the other thing, you know, time is valuable. And when you're a little younger, you don't see it.
Right.
You know, you just think you have infinite time, but there is no infinite time. And there's a point where you start like really seeing that the clock is moving and, you know, you can't stop it. And then you realize how it is. And then there's no more time for bullshit or for nonsense because I'm not even going to pay mine, just move on. Life goes on. I got to take care of this, me.
Right, right,
And
right.
or your immediate, whoever you love, and yes, and you can contribute also to your society, your community. That's the other thing. It's not about being selfish.
Exactly right.
If you're good to yourself, you're going to be good to everybody around you.
That's right. That love has no bound. When you recharge your battery and you're filled with self-love, that stuff pours out to everybody else around you, So I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say it's energy. You're talking about the world.
Yes.
It's all about energy. I mean, and you can sense energy anywhere you are. If it's negative vibes, you're going to feel them quick. If it's positive vibes, we're through Zoom right now and we can still see the energy.
Exactly.
It's just your voice can project energy and all that stuff. And sometimes you can see this is not really a good place. And you know what? You're not caught up. That's the other thing. People get caught up. Like, I can't move from this situation. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Everybody can. I mean, like, we decide, we make that call. It's a conscious choice that we're either going to stick in a fight or leave it a fight, or avoid the fight, or just, take the high road and move on. This job is not for me. I'm moving on. This relationship is not for me. I'm moving on. The way I dress is not good. Maybe I can change. It doesn't matter. You make that call and no one can do it for you.
That's right. That's right. And to me, when I'm doing therapy, I say, here's the bad news and the good news. The bad news is it's all on you. The good news is it's all on you. Because the bad news, because it's like, oh crap, it's all on me. And then the good news is I can change it. No one else can fix it. Just as you just said, exactly that. At any minute, I can say, this isn't working for me. Oh, that sounds so easy, Rachel. It does sound like, and depends on the levels of trauma and everything. It is work to some extent. And it is a process, as much of the stuff that I have unpacked and made peace with. Every now and again, that negative self-talk, we were talking about self-talk earlier. Every now and again, that negative self-talk will come in. But now I know how to talk back to it in a way that I see it as like an echo of that separation that we were talking about. That's just an echo of the old voices that were trying to keep me small because they felt small. They were bully voices, right? We talked about the insecure bullies, right? So your negative self-talk is like your insecure bully that's going, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough. Da, da, da. So you say, well, thank you for your input, but no, that's not the direction I choose to go in this point, and it's amazing. And then we bring in physics again, when we talk about superpositioning, right? So there's like, is it a particle? Is it a wave? Is it a particle? Is it a wave? It's whatever you're testing for, right? So it's both at the same time rotating like this. And then when you're looking at it, and like, I'm testing for a wave. Guess what? That's going to be a wave. You're testing for a particle, it's going to be a particle. That's how we think. So if we keep the positive, and I don't just mean, new agey positive, because we need the balance of light and dark in ourselves always. But if we are giving ourselves self-talk that is promotional in our lives, it moves us progressively forward in a positive way. That's what we're going to see. If we're constantly telling ourselves we're no good, and all those voices from our past are saying, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, that's what we're going to experience, because that's what we're testing for, if you see it that way, right? So, I think that's a really important point.
Well, thank you. And you talked about it's work, right? Well, I would never say that this is going to be easy for anyone, and it will vary. Right. Results vary, right? Yeah. Everybody, it's how much you put in, how bad you want it, and what kind of talk you have with yourself. That's one. But even if it's going to take time, but you have to have the awareness, you have to have the discussion, and then the decision that you start. Now that and then you put a time frame. If you can shrink that time frame in like instant time, great. If it's going to happen, but at least you have to start the journey towards the change. And that could be anything, like everything else in life, right? I mean, we don't just, we're today talking 50 years out, from the onset for us, right? But you start as a baby and you just grow up and learn, and it's a learning curve, but then you need to be able to see that even in your change. And you're right. It's what you can have those discussions. We all have that little inhibiting voice sometimes says, you really is going to work, even
right,
yourself,
you were that.
yeah, well, forget the people. I'm talking sometimes even you, like you start having
That's what I'm saying.
doubts, come in like, I don't see the results yet. Well, that's the thing, you are seeing results. You have to try to visualize the results. How far, compare yourself today from where you were a day ago, 2 days ago, last week, a year. If you see anything shifting, in the right direction, that means you are progressing. And that's the way to literally just revisit. I mean, now with technology, you can see videos, you can hear audios, and they can see even your technology. I mean, I make the joke about my podcast or studio here, and that first videos, were crazy. I mean, I'm still working on them, but when we think about it, like, I had, smaller technology or like less, advanced technology, but you progress one day at a time. Every day I learn a new thing, I add a new thing, and I progress to the next step. It's a media network. Well, it's not a media network the way people will probably perceive it today, but in 10 years, it will be what people would actually, say, wow. And that's where my vision is, but I'm working towards that.
That's
but
right.
So that's how you do it. It's not like, and I don't have to validate it with anyone. That's the other thing. Now, I do take criticism. I do take constructive criticism. I don't need criticism when someone just like, oh, you should have done that. I think that's a big mistake because people, it's very easy to look at a house that is full ready and say like, oh, you missed a little, nail in there, or nail is sticking out. And where were you when there was no, it was just a piece of ground, empty. I trust you if I put you all the wood and the concretes and whatever and the sheetrock and the floor and say, start, build the house. They'd be like, where do I start?
Right.
Well, it's very easy when you have a full picture and you're just like, well, if I were you, I would have put a little bit of an accent on that side. Well, guess what? You're not me and you didn't do it. And you know what? You're welcome to do the same and let me see how you do.
Yes.
Start from scratch and we'll compare, results. That's the problem. People would rather come to your show and criticize your show. I'm not talking about the show literally here. I'm just
yes, of course.
You're live, as opposed to like, looking and self-reflecting like, what am I doing?
Exactly. And that's what we were talking about, that insecurity part, right? It's much easier to point the finger at somebody else. You know how they always say, you point a finger at someone else, you have 3 pointing back at you. That means that, it's much easier to look at someone else's life, somebody else's crafted world, and poke holes in it because you are not taking the time to look at your own. So that's that insecurity part.
Well, that's true. But also that person has already put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at something that is complete in their aspect, their way of completing it. And then you come in with your opinion. But did you complete yours?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
We have the joke in business. We say you don't throw, well, I don't know if we apply it in business, but I think it's a standard, you don't throw rocks at, at somebody's home when your home is made out of glass, right? Or house made.
Right.
And usually that's what happens. We all have glass in our homes. And so don't shoot, other people's homes, because when they retaliate, your house is going to shatter. Be careful. And unless, and by the way, nobody's perfect. That's the other part. We can talk about self-talk and really constructive, for ourselves. But at the end of the day, we learn every day, every minute, and we can improve every day, every minute. Mm-hmm. And no one, should stop from that. And I think from a positive, stand, everybody watching and listening right now, this is for everyone. Yes. You got this. We all have the ability, and we can, and we should actually improve ourselves to the better and better, to your point, to the highest potential that we have in this world. Mm-hmm. And we all depart eventually. And, the best we do is if we can leave behind a legacy of something positive. Right. And, some people actually go through this world and people don't remember them, or they remember them in a bad way. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I'm not saying this so you can do it for people. You got to do it for your own self, because you're not doing it for what people think. When you depart, who cares, right? Mm-hmm. But if you had positive impact in life and you live a good print, and you touch people and you change people for better, that's a great thing. And that should be
affects everybody.
It's a ripple effect. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And you were talking earlier, asking, how do you discover your highest self?
Yes.
One of the reasons that we do this, to speak to your point, is you don't have to be famous. You don't have to, do a huge major thing with the one life that you have in order to make a difference. When you are coming from your highest self, that means the self that is reconnected to the divine, to the great mystery, to everything we've been talking about. That is you being your unique being. When we are truly being authentic with ourselves, and we bring that authentic self out into the world, and we're not looking for that outside validation from anyone else. Every interaction we have with anybody, family, friends, colleagues, bosses, partners, the clerk at the grocery store or the bank or whatever, we're making a difference in a positive way because and you were talking about energy earlier. Thank you for bringing that up. We are vibrating energy, all of us. So if you walk into a grocery store and you're in a shitty mood, or you walk into a grocery store and you've just been, doing something fun, like had a great bubble bath or a great run or whatever, your energy affects everybody around you, whether you open your mouth or not. So that's what matters. What are you contributing? You called it the fabric of community, of society, of the world. What is your stitch in that fabric like? How is it? Is it frayed? Is it faded? Or is it solid and gorgeous and bright? That's all we have to really care about, because it affects the entire tapestry. So if you walk around and you're in a crappy mood, and then you're everybody else is energetically kind of being brought down by you, the fabric gets frayed and faded, right? So we have just the opportunity and the obligation to just be ourselves. And that's immensely powerful.
I just love it, because you just give me a beautiful picture that I just visualize right now. And if you take all humanity, right, and everyone does that. Mm-hmm. Imagine what kind of tapestry you're gonna, what kind of image you're gonna have. It's just gonna be a beautiful image, right? And really, each and everyone has the ability to make that imprint and have that nice, elevated and very highlighted accent on this fabric that we call society and community. And we have that ability. We can do it, whether we're at work, at home. We can make a difference. To your point, you go out there, your energy is going to be contagious one way or the other. You go somewhere when there's a bad vibe, you just feel like it's misery, right? Mm-hmm. You go anywhere. I mean, we joke about smiling, right? It's contagious. If you laugh, everybody around you. I mean, this has been proven. I start laughing just for no reason. Everybody around is going to start laughing, right? And it just, as bad as it sounds, is so great.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's it. Again, we are connected. To your point, we're part of the same universe, and there are energies, and you do feel when it's off. It's very simple. You get in front of somebody, like sometimes you're like, oh, something I didn't feel those people, right? Or that person.
Right.
And that's because you clashed. Your energy is just basically totally opposite. It's like poof, out. So it's amazing. Now I know, Rachel, we have very limited, time today, and we are running out of time. So
I'm back to work.
I know. I just want to get one last thing out of you today, is that, the book, anything in specific in addition that you want to highlight in the book for our audiences, and of course where we can get the book, and also how they can get to you if they people want to reach out.
So this is the book. This is what it looks like. So when people order it, you can order it from Amazon is probably the easiest way. You can also order it through my website, which probably just leads you to Amazon. But my website is rachelastartetherapy.com. Pretty simple. And the book, I guess if I were to focus on one aspect of the book, is to understand that solitude is scary for people. The way that we're taught about solitude is that it's a punishment as children, right? Go to your room, think about what you've done. So being alone can be very frightening. A lot of people I talk to say, I don't want to be alone because I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. This is how you reach your highest self, is in solitude. When you're not trying to be anybody, you're not trying to please anybody. When you go into a solitude practice, even if it's 2 minutes or 2 hours, and you're saying, hey, this is my time. Screw everybody else. I'm going to connect with what makes me feel joyful. that is what regenerates your battery. That's all you need to do to get in touch with your highest self, is to just love who you are. Faults and all, you're right. There's no such thing as perfection. We are perfectly imperfect. And that's how we're supposed to be. There is no such thing as perfection. We should just throw the word out, because what we are wildly complex beings, and we should love every single aspect of ourselves. So when you spend time alone, welcome all of who you are without judgment. That's the whole thing. Non-judgment is what you want to do in a solitude practice. When you can start practicing non-judgment with yourself, you'll start practicing it outside in the real world as well.
Rachel, thank you for those words. And, I mean, I was going to ask you to close up, but you already did. that was a powerful message. And you know what, folks, also check out Rachel's podcast. I mean, I think it's self-talk, right?
Self-talk with Rachel Astarte. It's anywhere you find your podcasts.
There you go. So definitely you can benefit from it. And, I wish we had more time today. I know you have a very limited hour today, or less than an hour for us, but maybe in the future we'll catch up again and do a second comeback. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, folks. Thank you for being with us today and listening, watching on iHealth, the iHealth channel as well. And again, we'll be talking soon. New show, new guest, new topic. Bye for now.